Well, good morning. I'm Travis Williams, and today I'm in the Boundary Waters Canoe Wilderness. All right, here we are, Boundary Waters, Lake 1. Beautiful put-in, beautiful day, and got the Bell Magic all ready to go. It's just gorgeous out here. Not surprising, but fantastic. I had a last-minute opportunity to get a final available permit for the numbered lakes and into Hudson Lake and beyond, and took the opportunity, so I'm pretty happy I did. Almost didn't. It's kind of an overcast day. It's been spinning rain off and on, but it's about 66, 68 degrees right in there. Pretty comfortable. So we've got some river otters right here. They're super cool. Hi guys. I heard something yipping. I thought it was a juvenile eagle for a minute. Nope, river otters. Totally sweet. So the canoe I've got for this trip is a 1997 Bell Magic. And of course, Bell was gone for a few years, and I guess I can say it this way, a very related company started a few years later called North Star. But Bell made some fine canoes, got a couple of them, and this is just a fantastic solo boat. So far it's worked well for me in this Boundary Waters trip, and I like it a lot. This version of the Magic has a cane seat. I do not have a foot brace in it. I've thought about that. That's a whole discussion, I think, for some folks, whether you have a foot brace in a solo boat or any canoe, really. I prefer them just because it gives you somewhere to put your feet and get some good leverage as you're paddling, but it also works just fine without them. As you'll notice on this canoe, it has some really nice gunnels and woodwork, and that is not original to this boat. It was just a handful of years ago. The friend of mine, John Campbell, found this canoe and its sister canoe, if you will, and they were really in bad shape. They'd been stored, and they were in Washington State, and he described it as a barn for many years. And as a consequence, there was a little too much moisture, so the original wood gunnels were just totally shot. There are other parts of the two canoes that were in pretty bad shape, so he acquired them and then restored them. John is no longer with us, unfortunately, but the guy was an incredible artisan, if you will, in regard to restoring canoes, and did a fabulous job on this canoe and the other one. Here's just a little bit more of the work that John put into it. It's fantastic woodwork, and placed the seats, the thwarts, all the gunnels, and yeah, just a gorgeous canoe. It really moves along the water. I think we have 15.5, 16 feet of canoe here. I'll put that in the video later. I forgot to look and forgot myself. But it just really moves well. It's pretty stable. In this layup, even with the gel coat, it's easy to portage. It's not that heavy. I'm guessing we're at maybe 48 pounds. That's a total guess on my part here. But this canoe just kind of really has it all. Yeah, it's been great to use on this trip. Little Spot for the tent. Main part of my camp is right over there. And the sun just set a few minutes ago. It's about 9 o'clock. Beautiful, still, quiet night. And the sun sets. It's been a great night here last night. We'll be spending a handful of days here, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to take our coffee and canoe concept to this amazing place. This morning is just incredible, gorgeous campsite, and all of the flora and fauna that we see in the Boundary Waters is right here, and it's just been a fantastic time so far. So today's kit is pretty straightforward. I've got a little MSR backpacking stove, which is a great little stove in and of itself. I have a GSI French press, and I have some coffee from these parts from Caribou Coffee, and this is the French roast. So today we're going to go with this setup. Kind of mimics what I do at home in some ways, but different than what we did last time on this series. And so here we go. Let's make some coffee. Easy peasy. Getting toward boiling. So I've got the French press here. We're gonna add the coffee at the bottom. It's always kind of personal preference, like how much coffee you put in versus how heavy of a brew you want, and you can kind of experiment with that with a French press, as you can with many other methods of making coffee. But yeah, you just kind of be mindful of that and give it a shot. Yeah, boiled nice and quick. All right, pour this over. Okay. Now, I generally wait about 5 minutes, let things really soak there. People have their different ideas about what should make a perfect French press, but generally 5 minutes for me about does it, and I get the brew strength and taste that I want. And again, today it's a French roast, so we'll just let that sit here. I was very lucky to get a permit for the Boundary Waters during a time I was going to be here, and be enjoying a small cabin on a lake not too far from here. And you look for those permits on recreation.gov. If you don't have a permit, you're not going to go on a trip on the Boundary Waters, or somebody in your group has to have a permit. There's for each entry point, and there are dozens and dozens. There's an allowable amount of people to go in each day, and that helps make sure that there are campsites available. During the peak times, you might have to hunt around a little bit on a given lake. My trip so far here in late July, I feel like there's just been enough people to kind of notice them once in a while. And other than that, I had no problem finding a campsite yesterday afternoon, and decided to stop at I think the second or third one I saw, and it's been great. The Boundary Waters Canoe Wilderness has a long story, and I won't get into that. I think the biggest thing is that areas like this need protection for the long term, I think in our society we have a tendency to let time pass and begin to think about other things, and the impacts to places like this can be significant, from industrial activity and other types of activity, and even down to the type of management that is used. This is managed by the U.S. Forest Service, and they kind of set the rules in the program for the Boundary Waters. But as you go out from lake to lake, and the further you go out, or in, if you will, into the Boundary Waters, the fewer people you're going to see, generally speaking. This area is just true wilderness. It's really incredible, and I feel lucky that I'm even here today to be able to enjoy it. And I think anytime you're in a place like this, it doesn't have to be the Boundary Waters. You just have to feel lucky and appreciate the opportunity. I think our French press is ready to be pressed. So here's the part that sometimes people have a hard time with. Also depends on the French press. But we put this in here. And I would say the biggest thing is to not push too hard. If you're pushing and the coffee is resisting, which is possible, and you're really just putting tons of weight and pressure on this, sometimes it can go down really quickly and splash hot coffee out. You do not want that to happen. But I just go with a nice gentle press. Don't be in a giant hurry. And get down to the last inch and a half or less of coffee being compressed in the bottom of the canister, and that's that. Okay, ready to pour. And you see here I've got the little arrow lined up with the spout. Make sure we can actually pour this, and here we go. Oh yeah, that looks like some good French roast. Nice and dark. Sweet. Yeah, so French press coffee, I mean, I don't know. I don't think you could beat it, but I've said that before, and there's so many good ways to make coffee. All right, first Boundary Waters cup of coffee on this trip. Let's see how we did. Oh yeah, that's just right. Wow. So get out here, you could find permits on recreation.gov. You can search all the different entry points and kind of look at the type of trip that you want to set up. There's a lot of great information out there on the internet. You could kind of find trips that have shorter portages, longer portages, more mileage, less mileage. It's kind of up to you and the type of paddling you want to do. But you do have to portage. And I think that's a great part of canoe tripping up here and many parts to the north. You got to carry your boat around obstacles. You have to carry your boat to the next lake, and provide some nice variation and get your body moving. So I think there's definitely a lot to appreciate about that. So with any trip to areas with water, or up in the high mountains, you're going to have some mosquitoes. And I can't tell you how many people have asked me over the years when I've done these trips, they're like, oh my gosh, what about the mosquitoes? Well, yeah, there's mosquitoes here for sure. And we're in late July, and they kind of feel like they're beginning to taper. But you know, you could wear a mosquito net around your head, and there's other clothing you could buy that has a repellency factor. And there's other things you could do. In my case, I brought DEET, which is in most mosquito repellent sprays. Hit my wool top pretty well, and my shorts and my leggings and my hat. And you know, it does the job. You're still going to be finding mosquitoes that get to your bare skin, and you know what to do when that happens. But it's nothing I would characterize as intolerable at this point in the season. And one thing I would remind people is that if you do a trip to the Cascades in Oregon and Washington right now, you're going to have this many mosquitoes or more. There's a lot of lakes you could go to in the Cascades and set up your camp and just be inundated with mosquitoes. So it's a reality in a lot of places. It's just not about Minnesota or the Northwoods. So I think it's a little bit of a reality check there. You're going to deal with mosquitoes in a lot of different areas and other bugs. So again, when I think of the Boundary Waters, you know, there's a lot of people who worked very hard for decades to protect this place. And similarly in Canada, just on the other side of the boundary up this way, with Quetico Provincial Park in Ontario, those two are more or less connected together. You know, of course, we as humans, we like to draw lines on things on maps, but the two areas are very symbiotic and really worthy of appreciation. There are more people that visit the Boundary Waters annually versus Quetico, and some people herald Quetico because of that. But I think in the Boundary Waters, you can definitely have a real wilderness experience and get some great canoeing in, and really have a chance to kind of be dropped in for a period of days and enjoy solitude and quiet. One of the things last night that I really noticed was the quiet, and it was fantastic. In fact, there's an essay about quiet in this book, and you know, it's things like that when we're in our everyday lives that you kind of forget about or maybe yearn for. You know, the sound of vehicles is all too present in our world, even in areas where you think you're way out there. To hear a motor, you know, grinding away somewhere in the distance can be a bit of a bummer. In a place like this, you just don't hear that. So it's really pretty amazing. Another thing I would say about Sigurd Olson in his writing is, you know, he does lament, even back in the late 50s, the change in culture in the United States and technology and people's detachment from nature, which is a theme that I think we've heard more about in the last few years, in, you know, the 2020s and before that. You know, whether we're thinking about kids and not having a chance to be in nature as much as they might have in prior generations, or the change in the landscape due to natural resource extraction, whether you're looking at mining or logging or other uses. But there are some themes that I think are maybe universal. Maybe that's too far of a step to take and say that, but it does seem like some of these themes come back to us because there is changing technology and different assumptions. And I think there is also a very real detachment from being in the natural world and you know, getting away from our homes and everything that we have there typically, if you're lucky enough to be in a home. And being outside can really, you know, do something good for the soul too. So again, The Singing Wilderness by Sigurd Olson, a lot of great chapters in here and essays about his experience with the natural world. And he's written many books. And if you want to check out more about him, it's the Listening Point Foundation, has a lot of good information. I think it's listeningpoint.org. And of course, if you go online and search for his name's Sigurdolson, not En, you'll find his different published books come up, and you can take a look. So again, today's setup, pretty straightforward. We have some caribou coffee French roast, little MSR camp stove, and of course the GSI French press. Definitely gets a thumbs up from me. The cool thing about this GSI is that it's very lightweight. It's plastic, but it has this fabric kind of protective sleeve over it, which of course also has the handle so you can pick it up. And again, I have no affiliation with Caribou Coffee. It just happened to be what one of the coffees I've had before and liked it. And they have a lot of product availability in Minnesota and elsewhere in the upper Midwest. and after a long flight and canceled flight and sleeping in an airport, you know, I went for what was right in front of me, and I think I did just fine. So another thing, I'm drinking this coffee this morning, black. I think in the last video I talked a bit about bringing actual half and half, which was kind of a luxury. On a trip to the Boundary Waters, you're typically not going to do that. You might bring a powder, but just something I mixed up yesterday and put in a plastic bag all ready to go, and I think I left it on the kitchen counter in the cabin. So anyway, today I'm doing just fine with this delicious French roast black coffee. Not a problem at all. It's gorgeous. So here's another typical campsite. This one's on a point. Usually there's some halfway decent spot to pull up your canoe and unload it. Enough flat area up top to have a place for your tent or tents, fire grate, all that. So this is pretty darn nice. As we walk on in here, there's the fire grate at this one. Some birch there. It's got a beautiful view. It is within sight of another campsite, so you have to consider that. Tent pad. Another area for a tent over here. Wide open lake. Just love these little islands. So many of them. All the pines. Not sure if you can see it. There's a little tiny turtle on the end of that rock right there, just chilling out in the sun. Gorgeous. There's a little one like that last night, just off of my camp. It kept poking its head out of the water and looking at me, doing this thing.